Silly season is upon us, gentlemen. Ho, ho, ho. Christmas parties, booze, chocolate, mince pies, overexcited children, in-laws, and your slightly racist grandmother. It really is the season to be jolly, isn't it? But it's also the time of year where I see a lot of guys fall apart, undo months of hard work, and have a complete mental breakdown. So, if you want to enjoy silly season without piling on the extra pounds, this video's for you. Today, we're going to cover the simple strategies you can use to keep your momentum, stay in control, and actually enjoy Christmas without gaining a belly Santa would be proud of. So full screen the video and let's lock in, lads. The first thing we need to do is set some expectations, because the goal of silly season is very simple. To survive. It's not about losing 10 pounds or hitting PBs in the gym. It's about getting through the next few weeks unscathed. It's about damage limitation. It's about protecting and maintaining the momentum that you've worked so hard to build all year so that you can start January feeling in control rather than feeling like you're in recovery. And listen, if you've been working hard the last few months or maybe the whole year, now is the time to chill out a little bit. At the end of the day, what's the point in doing all that hard work if you can't enjoy yourself from time to time? Because I know from personal experience that you cannot rev the engine at 9,000 RPM all year, 365 days in a row. Eventually, you'll crack and you'll break. I would rather that you take the next couple of weeks to take a step back, recharge, and fire yourself up so that you're ready to go on January 1st. And remember, there are 3,500 calories in 1 pound of fat. That means that you would have to eat an extra 3,500 calories just to gain 1 pound. So even if you wake up on Boxing Day on the 26th of December and the scales say that you're 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 pounds heavier than you were the day before, don't panic. Just remind yourself of that maths and don't sit in and mope like everybody else. Get up, get out, and get yourself in the gym. I gave all my US-based clients the same instructions for the day after Thanksgiving, and every single one of them, to a man, told me that they were hitting PBs and they'd never felt stronger. Why? Because their energy tank was overflowing. You have to remember that food is your fuel. So when you do overeat, your body is crying out for you to go out and burn that extra energy. Not only are you going to benefit from having that smug feeling because you've gone up and done something while everyone else is lying in bed, but you're going to feel great about the fact that you've hit PB after PB after PB. So that's the very first thing we want to do. Set some expectations. And then once we've done that, the very next thing that we want to do is set ourselves up with some non-negotiable habits, because it's not December and silly season that's making us fat. It's losing structure. You have to remember that December removes predictability, not your discipline. You're still the same guy. You're just operating in a different set of circumstances. Most men think that this is the time that beats them, but really it's the lack of routine. So when life gets unpredictable, which it typically does this time of year, a simple set of rules that you're setting for yourself, a standard if you like, is what's going to save you. And that's what these non-negotiables are. They're your bare minimum. They're the standards that you hold yourself to no matter what the circumstances. These aren't goals, they're identity statements. They define who you are. And these don't need to be crazy or complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better. It could be hitting a daily step target of 6,000 to 8,000. It could be making sure that you've always got protein at every single meal. It could be as simple as making sure that you're drinking enough of this stuff. Or one that I really like to stick to is that you're getting up at the same time regardless. Because that morning window, the first 2 to 3 hours of the day, is when you're going to get to be selfish. Before the kids get up, before the chaos starts, before the expectations on you rise, you can get up at the normal time and get the stuff done for yourself. And these habits, these non-negotiables, subconsciously, they keep you in the game. Think of them like guardrails. They're just going to stop you flying off the road. And they're small enough to be excuse-proof, but powerful enough to stabilize everything. And that means when the social occasion comes, you can enjoy it completely guilt-free, because you know you've already gotten up early and you've done the hard work. You've done your non-negotiables. You've got your steps, you've eaten your protein, done some push-ups, you've had a cold shower, and you've drunk plenty of water. I'm not asking you to move heaven and earth here. This is pretty simple stuff. And again, the key thing here is that it means that you're not ruining all the momentum that you've worked so hard to build. So while the new year, new me crowd are just lacing up their boots, you're already pretty down the track. And while we're on the subject of mindset, we have to remember that Christmas is only 2 or 3 days. It's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day at a push. Now, this year, it is a little bit different because Christmas Day is on a Thursday, which means for most people, it's going to be a 4-day festivity. But even if it's 4 days, there's 31 days in December. And the problem isn't how you behave on those 4 days, it's what you do on the other 27. So I guess what I'm saying here is, unlike most people, don't write off the whole month for the sake of a long weekend. As we've already talked about, the goal in December isn't necessarily to get ahead and hit big milestones. It's just to maintain that momentum, to maintain the habits, to maintain the identity, and to maintain the mindset. Because that means you're not wasting the first 2 weeks of January revving up your engines and getting yourself back in gear. You're ready to go from January 1st. And the other thing I would actively encourage you to do, particularly over the Christmas weekend, is take a break from tracking calories. Now, that doesn't mean that you should be eating like a gluttonous pig, and we'll talk more about some strategies around how you can avoid that in a minute. But I want you to think about eating strategically rather than restrictively. And there's a few very simple rules that you can implement to help you do this. Number one is to have protein first to every single one of your meals. And this is for 2 reasons. Reason number one is that because protein helps to fill you up and stabilize your blood sugar levels. The second reason is that when you pair protein with carbohydrates, it prevents massive spikes in insulin. And as a result of that, you're going to negate the risk of storing extra belly fat. Plus, you're going to avoid the crash that most people get after eating a big meal. Now, the second thing is something actually I would avoid, and that's skipping meals. Sometimes this strategy can work, but we have to remember that the worst decisions come from when we're feeling tired and fatigued. In other words, they come from when we're thinking emotionally. And when you overlay the fact that you're already out of your usual environment, plus you're probably not sleeping in the same bed that you normally sleep in, maybe you've had a couple of drinks the night before, you're thinking entirely with emotion rather than with logic. And if you then add skipping a meal on top of that, you're just going to be completely ravenous. And what you will find is that when you're not eating with restriction, when you're not putting these massive expectations on yourself, and you're not necessarily trying to stick to the same number of calories that you would on a Tuesday in March, you'll actually eat less because your brain isn't wondering, when am I next going to eat? It's calm. It's in control. You're thinking rationally. And what doubles up really well with this strategy is the 1-plate structure. Because if we think about it, the extra calories that we eat over the holiday period very rarely comes from our main meals. Heck, most of it doesn't even come from food, if we're honest. It comes from picking and nibbling and grazing. And let's be real, it comes from drinking. Because rather than having structured sit-down meals, I don't know about your family, but in my family, there's always food on the table, whether it's leftovers from the day before or fresh turkey that day. Plus, it's the only time of the year where it becomes socially acceptable to be drunk at 8 a.m. And let's be honest, because of how 85% of people absolutely hate their job and will do anything to forget all about it for a couple of days, when Auntie Glenda offers you a glass of champagne just as you're rubbing your eyes getting out of bed, you're going to take it, aren't you? And again, I don't say this from a place of judgment. I used to absolutely love it. But if you've got your morning routine on lock, like I said, one of the biggest game changers for me was getting up at the same time and kind of just gatekeeping those couple of hours before everyone else kind of got involved in the madness. It really helps you to maintain an element of control. Because once you've got past that sort of snap decision that's put in front of you and actually thought, do I really need this? Your brain kicks into gear and goes, of course I don't. It's a Thursday morning. Why am I drinking at 7 a.m.? Because the other problem, obviously, when you start drinking early in the day is that your inhibitions completely go. And because it's winter and it's colder outside, you're far less inclined to go out and get some steps in. So not only are you eating a lot more and drinking a lot more, but now you're moving a lot less as well. So when you protect your morning and when you stick to a 1-plate structure, these 2 strategies combined are a great way for you to stay in control. And the 1-plate structure is super simple. You can fill that plate with absolutely anything you want, but once it's gone, it's gone. And having this 1-plate rule forces conscious choice. It makes you think, do I actually want this, or am I just eating it because it's there? And this simple visual rule means that you can eat absolutely anything you want, but it prevents accidental overeating. So you maintain your freedom without falling into chaos. And it removes any shame or awkward conversation because nothing is off limits. Granted, you're probably still going to get that comment from your uncle or your cousin who's saying like, oh, I thought you don't eat carbs anymore. Just smile, laugh, and say, and behind their back, just do that. And another important thing to remember, which I've said in previous videos, is that you never want to be looking at your calories on the day to day. You want to be zooming out and looking at them through the perspective of your whole week. So let's say your calorie deficit target is 2,000 calories. That means when you multiply it by 7 days in a week, you have 14,000 calories to play with over 7 days. So if you say to yourself, right, in the Christmas week, I'm just going to hit maintenance. So that would be about 2,500 calories per day, which is what? 14,000, add 3,500, 17,500. It makes you realize that you've got a heck of a lot to play with. And this shifts any guilt that you might have into more of a budgeting mindset. If you know that you're going to be with your family for 48 hours, you could budget 10,000 calories if you wanted to, and you're still going to have 7,500 calories for the other 5 days of the week. And that's just if you wanted to stay at maintenance without gaining any fat. If you were happy to gain 1 or even 2 pounds, the sky's the limit. But it would be negligent of me to finish up this video without talking about booze. As we all know, alcohol lowers the quality of the decisions that we make. And decision quality is going to determine calorie intake. And I don't know about you, but in my experience, the trouble tends to start about drink number 4. So, simple rule, 3 drinks max. And this is a really good tip for you, which has worked very well for me in the past. If you are going to drink tequila soda. And this is for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that a tequila soda only has about 70 calories. But more importantly, reason number 2, at least from my personal experience, tequila is the only alcohol, the only mixer that I really notice no matter how much of it I've drunk. And that means after the first or the second one, I'm still questioning whether I really want this because I can still taste the tequila. Whether if it's vodka, gin, beer, wine, your taste buds somewhat go numb after the first couple. Before you know it, you're playing beer pong with your granny. So 3 tequila sodas is going to add up to 200 odd calories, plus it's going to really keep you in check mentally. But the biggest benefit of all of this is it means that you avoid the hangovers. You can get up the next day before everyone else, and you can have those hours where you are allowed to be selfish, where you're allowed to focus on what you want to do. And just remember, the most festive cravings and hangovers come from dehydration. So water can literally solve half of the silly season problems instantly. It means you snack less, it means you move more, and it means you think clearer. You avoid the lethargy, you avoid the hangover binges, and you maintain control without trying. And that means you can get up, get out, and get some steps in. Because even if your gym's shut, steps are always free. And actually, while we're on the subject of this, another great way to really manage any potential insulin blood sugar spikes is to make sure that you're walking around after meals. So don't be that guy who's leaning back going, oh God, that was a big one, wasn't it? Get up, get out, and just go and walk it for 10 minutes. Even if you're not hitting your usual 10 or 12,000 steps a day, that's absolutely fine. But try and aim for a minimum of 6, because above all, your body feels used and not stagnant. So that's just a few things that I can think of off the top of my head that hopefully will help you to manage your silly season a little bit better than last year. But I think the main message that I really want to hammer home is that December isn't a month where you should be thinking about getting ahead. It's not the time to be trying to lose a ton of weight or hit PBs in the gym. It's really about protecting that momentum and maintaining that mindset, staying in control. And if you implement some of the tactical solutions that we've been through today, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to go into January raring to go. And if you do this, it means you can enjoy your Christmas more. You can enjoy your Christmas guilt-free, without restriction. You can enjoy your Christmas without any awkward conversations. And you can pick up in January where you left off in the middle of December. So I think the only other thing for me to say is good luck. This is a tough time of year for a lot of people. I know it can put a lot of strain on people, both emotionally and financially. But if you've been watching my videos for a while, if you've been working hard this year, then please take a few days to try to relax and to try to enjoy yourself. Because I want every single one of you to go into January raring to go. And the very last thing that I want to say is use this time to reflect on what you've achieved in 2025, but also to start planning what you want to do in 2026. At the end of every single year, I like to release a video where I go through all of the major lessons that I have learned. Now, I haven't released the one for 2025 yet, but to be honest with you, a lot of the lessons that I learned in 2024 are still valid to this day. So if you click here, you can watch that video next. It's going to be a little bit of a throwback because I literally recorded it, I think, on the 28th of December last year. But I promise you, you'll take a lot of value from it and it will get the creative juices flowing while you think about what you want to achieve going into 2026. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be making videos. I'll still be turning up. But if we don't speak or I don't see you before then, have an amazing Christmas. Well done on all your hard work this year. And let's start 2026 in the best possible way. Cheers.